In GFC 1 in '08, the big bet was housing prices would not go down nationwide. And if they did, the whole thing would fall apart. Now, I feel like the big bet of our time was that we wouldn't see inflation when it comes to things like home prices, home interest rates, real rates of return by the government. Both Washington and the Wall Street are making the same bet that there won't be inflation, and now we have it, and now the bet now is it'll go down. Don't worry, it'll go down. I don't think so. I think it might go down in the short term, but I think we're going to have a decade of inflation, and the reason I say that is government deficit spending. We it can't be avoided because we spend more than we make, and we'd have to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and that is politically unpalatable. And they are basically indexed to inflation to a certain degree. But this has unintended consequences, which is not a surprise. Most of the things Washington does has unintended consequences. And about 40% of all houses in America were either bought or refinanced in 2020 and 2021 at all-time historic low interest rates. And I was thinking to myself, as these banks go bankrupt, who's going to buy if they're, let's say, like First Republic, they have some mortgages on their books, and some of them apparently are interest only. But let's say that they're like mine. They're a 30-year mortgage at below 3%. Who is going to buy those? For real, who is going to buy those? And the question is, when these banks go bankrupt, which could potentially happen because of these low interest rates, there's really not going to be a buyer. And eventually, who's going to be the buyer of last resort? As always, it's going to be the Fed. Because just like with UBS and Credit Suisse, the Bank of Switzerland had to make some uh, concessions with UBS to buy Credit Suisse because they understood that a lot of Credit Suisse's assets weren't that great. And so if a bank goes under, one man's mortgage is another man's deposit, right? And so in order to pay these people back, these mortgages have to be bought by another bank. And if they're negative yielding, meaning inflation's 5 and the interest rate is 3, tell me how that works. Just kind of thinking out loud here, but let's take a look at this story from Yahoo. They asked the same question: what happens to your mortgage if my bank fails? Well, it's a pretty simple answer. Somebody else buys it. So, reading from the article here, since the abrupt collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, questions around the safety and integrity of all things banking have been swarming. Good. It's good that people understand that the fiat Ponzi requires you to give a unsecured loan to your bank. A lot of people don't know that. One of the questions is, what happens to my mortgage if my bank fails? There's good news. If the bank holds your mortgage, that holds your mortgage goes under, the status of your loan won't change because it will be acquired by a new lender. Key sentence. It will be acquired by a new lender. That's in a normal world. In a world with inflation, where everyone made this bet and handed out loans at below 3%. Let's say the Fed changes their advertised target. And we all know that government underrepresents CPI. But let's say the Fed changes their target for inflation to 4. Now, these 40% of homeowners that refinanced or bought in 2020 and 2021 now have a loan that is below the rate of inflation. So, what person in their right mind would want to buy a negative yielding loan? They wouldn't. So, even if your bank doesn't go under, they are losing money. They are hemorrhaging money. So, when it says, yes, it'll be acquired, what that requires is the Fed to inject liquidity for another bank to buy. Because no bank in their right mind will do that without assurances from the money printer. So further reading here, it tells you, hey, if your bank goes under, you need to keep up with your mortgage payments, maintain diligent records, and understanding these loans aren't delinquent, right? These are loans that people want to pay because it's great for them. It's great for me because it's below the rate of inflation. It's great for those 40% of people. But if it's great for me, it's bad for somebody else. And who's that somebody else? The bank. It's bad for their balance sheet. It is an asset to them. But with inflation, they are losing money. And that was the big bet in 2020 and 2021. And to a certain extent, that bet's still going on. We're going to have no inflation forever. And we can keep taking on debt and go below 0% interest rates for some reason. It doesn't make sense. And so what happens when those gears shift and all of a sudden we have inflation? We have loans in America that banks have on their books that they are losing money on, even though people are paying them, even though people are up to date on the mortgage. It's all fine and dandy, but they are losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% based off of inflation. And that happens long enough, these banks become insolvent. And then they have to sell them. And who wants to buy them? Yet another unintended consequence from our overlords in the financial engineering department, also known as Washington. But I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments. I was thinking about this with First Trust. Like they apparently have a lot of mortgages that they incentivize rich people to get, and they're interest only, and um, they seem like something no bank would ever want to buy. They're toxic assets, so to speak. But if this toxic asset is my house, how does that work? Seems kind of weird. I think this is the first time in history that we've had this kind of raising of rates. So now they can go on the open market, just like on treasuries, and get a higher interest rate for buying mortgage-backed securities that yield 5, 6. So why in the heck would they want to buy mine? They wouldn't. All right, y'all. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See y'all in the next one. Peace.